Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events. Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome, everybody, to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. This is it, folks. It's here. It's the game preview. We've been waiting for a long time since NFC Championship game, and much like the Lions, Talking Grit is in uncharted territory. This is our first regular season game preview. How you feeling about that, Jacob? Are you excited?
It's finally time, man. Finally time to redeem ourselves. Start this Super Bowl run.
We started this podcast in May, and it was obviously off season. This is really exciting for us. We're going to be doing this during the season, get to live it with everyone that's listening with us, and I'm jacked about that. Season starts. We're recording this on Wednesday night. The first game is tomorrow, so that's going to be awesome.
Can't wait, man. Football's back.
It is. All right. Since this is our first regular season game preview, we thought we would invite someone to help us understand our opponent a little bit better. We've invited Sheriff Joe Baggs from the Rams Showcase podcast, and we have done an interview with him previously. I'd like to share that with you now. So, Joe, this Rams and Lions team just faced each other at the end of last year. In terms of football games, it's not that far off, really. What is different about this Rams team that the Lions will be facing this coming up Sunday?
I think there's a little bit more hunger in this team, man. So last year going into the season, the Rams were not really being talked about as a playoff team coming off of a 4-win season. Why would you kind of be talked about as a playoff team coming into that? So I think that ultimately this year we kind of come in with a little bit more confidence into the season. Obviously, by the time that playoff game was played, the Rams were rolling. We had, done an awesome stretch to end the season going into that game. So, and then obviously you got those big ones, no Aaron Donald in this one. That's obviously, a big change there. A lot of changes on the defensive side, but ultimately what I think that the Lions fans will see in this game is a different Rams team emotionally. The offense, the schematics will seem very similar, but I think that the hunger is a little bit heavier than it was last year.
What do you think accounts for that hunger?
I think part of it was getting booted right away in Detroit, man. So it's one of those situations where Detroit, first home playoff game in 30 plus years, man. I think the football gods were not going to let Matthew Stafford come in and ruin that for the Lions fans. Mm-hmm. There's kind of part of that, but I think that, Matthew Stafford, the way that game ended, and the reception that he got from the Lions fans, I think that his personal hunger, I think he's in a position now. I mean, you guys know Matthew Stafford. I think he's going to come in wanting to put up 1,000 yards this week. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he's a big part of that. But I think that there's a lot of those guys that we had on our Super Bowl team that are not here anymore. We got a lot of guys who did not win rings, but we got those guys that did win the ring that are kind of telling them hey, this is worth it. Let's go. This is where it starts. Week 1 this is where this journey begins. So let's get rolling. So it does kind of seem like the last year vibe of we're just putting this team together. We think that we're better than the media thinks that we are. This year, it's we know we're better than the media thinks we are. So I think this team's just ready to come in and show the rest of the NFL and the Lions fans specifically, who overall it seems like don't have a lot of confidence in this Rams squad. So I think that week 1 will be a little bit something to prove on all fronts from this Rams team.
I feel like the main difference maker for you guys last year was really just that surprise that Puka had. Puka Nakua kind of came out of nowhere, just such a big receiving threat. Really just made the offense relevant again at a time when Cooper Kupp was injured. So I guess right now, who would you say is the number 1 receiver for the Rams? Do you think that Puka is kind of taking that spot over, or do you think that they're both going to be able to put up those numbers?
It does feel very 1A, 1B, but if I had to pick one, I would say that Cooper Kupp is the number one guy. Last year, you mentioned it, he was hurt, so kind of needed Puka, and it kind of worked out because the timing of Kupp getting hurt last year, there's no good time to lose a superstar player like that, but the timing of it did allow Puka and Matthew Stafford to get some good reps in training camp with each other, so their comfort level going into that game was nice, but Cooper Kupp is a different level, man. I mean, Puka, he had an incredible season. His rookie year is one that, I will always forever get mad at CJ Stroud for taking rookie of the year from Puka Nakua because it's like, hey, man, CJ Stroud did an awesome job, but Puka did something we've never seen before. We've seen quarterbacks have good seasons as rookies, but Puka, I think, was next level. But I think Cooper Kupp is that guy, and being fully healthy going into this game, I think, is not getting enough credit, even from Rams fans. I think that even Rams fans are kind of got the Puka colored glasses on right now, and the excitement is definitely on him. But even on like a fantasy standpoint, I think that Cooper Kupp's a better pick this year. I think that Puka will be, a problem for sure. I mean, the dude's extremely talented, but I would say that Cooper Kupp is that top target.
Yeah, I think you're right about Cooper. I think people have it's really crazy how NFL fans can forget really quickly, but Puka came out of nowhere, and that's a shiny new toy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cooper had almost MVP type season though too. So you're right. It's kind of just like the fall off. I mean, that would be really, really good for your team if they really do come out 1A, 1B and really putting up numbers.
If we get like a 2021 Cup and a 2023 Puka paired up, man, then sorry about your defense, dude, but it's gonna be it's gonna be fun on my end. So
it's gonna be tough to stop.
Yeah. It'd be sad that you only have one football to go around. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's the problem, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's stick on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line. There's a little bit of flux going on right now. So tell us what's going on. I know that we might be moving our buddy Jonah Jackson over to center. Tell us what's going on with this shift and, how you expect them to respond.
Yeah, so offensive line, strong point for the Rams, but going into this week specifically, a little bit of a question mark for the Rams as A.J. Jackson suspended for the first 2 weeks. So he'll get his first start when the Rams have their home opener in week 3 against the Niners. But we also got Rob Havenstein, right tackle, may or may not play. We're very 50-50 on that and kind of just waiting for an injury report to see if we can get any more information on that. But based on the comments that we're getting, I think he's going to play in that game, especially because A.J. Jackson is not in. So if Jackson was maybe playing in this game, maybe Havenstein gets one more week to kind of, get it together. But No Boom is going to be at that left tackle spot who has started games for the Rams. He started, in Tampa when the Rams were going on that Super Bowl run in 2021. So we feel pretty good about Joe Noteboom filling at that left tackle spot. Right tackle would be it would be Warren McClendon if Rob Havenstein can't go. And that will be a question mark, especially, Lions front is pretty strong. So that would be the target, man. Go after them tackles if that is the case. But you mentioned it, man. Jonah Jackson, he was brought in from Detroit and was this entire time has been left guard, and Steve Avila, second year out of TCU, been sitting at center. And all of a sudden, going into this week, it's like, oh, by the way, we'll probably switch that. And it's like, wait, wow, what? So we don't actually know what's going to happen with that. And the reason is because A.J. Jackson, that left tackle, being out. So the thought process is that we know Steve Avila and what he can do. So if we're going to have a backup left tackle, put Avila back at that left guard spot to help out on that left side, especially when you got to get a guy like Aiden trying to ruin your day. And then Jonah, who I don't know how well he can play center. Did he play center at all? Did he take any reps there?
No,
in Detroit?
No, not that I'm aware of. He wasn't, he wasn't even the backup option. It was last year. Graham was there. So yeah, as far as I know, it might be a few years back if he'd played there, but no.
Fair enough.
I feel like maybe when Ragnar was hurt that he might have got like some snaps in, but it was not a considerable amount, definitely not a full game or anything like that.
Well, and I'll say that, the Rams don't bring in interior offensive line that can't play all 3 spots. So he wouldn't have even signed with the Rams if they didn't feel at least a little bit comfortable that he could do center if he needed to. So we'll see how that plays out, man. But I don't expect an answer to that until game day. I think that the Rams will kind of play that one a little bit close to the vest a little bit, man, and not let that Lions front kind of know exactly where they'll be attacking and who specifically. But tackles are a concern in these first 2 games. So
Yeah.
we got to keep an eye on that.
Yep.
So I guess we're going to switch over. We're going to remain in the trenches here, but we're going to talk about the defensive line now. Obviously, no more Aaron Donald for you guys. It's going to be a really different look. Are you concerned with the defensive line? Do you think they're going to be able to create that same production? I mean, there's some new players there. How are you feeling about the line?
I mean, obviously, you're a better football team when Aaron Donald's on it, man.
Right.
Simply put, I mean, there's no next Aaron Donald. He was the one. We had him. He's gone now. So yeah, it's a big hit, obviously. But the talent that is still around, I mean, you got Kobe Turner going into year 2, already voted captain, which means, I mean, we all like that as Rams fans because that shows that, I mean, I don't know how every team does captains. Rams always have player vote. And so it's voted on by players. So that we like that the players trust him to run it. And then Quinn Lake, of course, is the other one. But Kobe Turner, man, second year, obviously, he's an extremely talented player. Not to the level of Aaron Donald, but no one is, like I said. So I think that he can be that guy. Then we have Bobby Brown, who's been around for a bit, Texas A&M product. I think last year he took his biggest jump, but we've seen him get better every single year. So it'll be them two mainly holding up the front there. And then the rookie coming in, Braden Fisk. That'll be an interesting one. It looks like FSU is really missing Fisk and Verse. So hoping that translates over to the Rams instead. FSU is like, oh, dang, we lost 2 studs out here. So that's kind of the hope. But those 3 specifically. And then later on in the draft, the Rams did take Tyler Davis. And it's hard to judge preseason, but the way he was getting into the backfield in the preseason games, I mean, it was lightning quick. It was making us think like Aaron Donald-esque as far as his moves. Obviously, I'm not saying that Tyler Davis is the next Aaron Donald or anything like that, but he's definitely got some moves, man. And pairing him with Fisk, who we have not seen on a field yet, and then Kobe Turner's second year, so who knows what that jump is going to look like, or if there's any kind of sophomore slump. So I still feel good about this defensive line, but I mean, there's no taking it softly. I mean, Aaron Donald leaving your football team is a massive hit, so it's got to be considered for sure.
Yeah. Now let's stay with the defense. You just traded away your linebacker, Ernest Jones, who was the play caller on your defense. That's shocking to me that this late in training camp that there's a switch like that. So was there more to that, and how do you think that's going to affect the defense as a whole?
Dude, there is more to it, but I don't know what. That's the problem. We don't know what happened. The story that came out, it was, the Rams have given Ernest Jones permission to seek a trade. He tweeted out, I never asked for a trade. Sean McVay said, yeah, he didn't ask for a trade, but we are entertaining offers, and then obviously we do that less needs special. You send away a player and then make a late round draft pick a little bit better of a late round draft pick. So we don't know what happened. I have a guess on what I think happened, which was that the effort level was not there in training camp in preseason out of Ernest Jones, where Sean McVay, I believe him when he says that we're a better football team without Ernest Jones. I believe him, man. Who am I to look at Sean McVay like, you don't know what you're talking about? So it was definitely surprising, and no idea yet who's going to be our green dot. It has not been announced. So we don't even know who's going to be captain or we're calling the defense yet. So that'll be interesting to watch.
It's just shocking from afar. I mean, obviously I don't know the depths of the Rams like you do, but if we lost our green dot like right at the end of training camp, that would be a concern for me.
4 guys that I'm comfortable with, that I would be like, if any 4 of them get the green dot, I'll be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're all right.
Yeah.
We're all right. So
And,
see what happens.
and we would probably feel the same way too, but you just hear that, you're like, man, that's a big change right before.
Well, he was our only defensive captain carryover from last year. With Donald and Jordan Fuller leaving, he was our only one. So now a new defensive coordinator and no returning captains. It's like, oh, okay, this is a new squad, man.
Yeah.
New Rams defense. So
Yeah.
interesting.
And he played really well in that last game against us. He was a problem.
Ernest Jones just broke the franchise record for tackles in a single season last year.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
I don't know what
But it's
happened.
funny that you mentioned that, because we kind of feel the same way now that we have Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, where it's like, if they're making those calls, you know what? I think it's probably the right decision. And that hasn't always been the case in Detroit.
Yeah.
And, there's plenty of times where we just we feel like they don't know what they're doing. But yeah, no, when you trust the coach, when you trust the front office,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Listen, Snead, man, they brought this team from, being like one of the worst in the league to almost immediately. Sean McVay's first year we were a playoff team, Second year we're in the Super Bowl. So changed everything, man. Yeah. Who am I to say that those guys aren't doing the right thing? You know what I mean? So
Right.
and Brad Holmes, dude, you mentioned Brad Holmes. I'm such a fan of Brad Holmes. The Rams product, of course, he was with the Rams at all St. Louis back in starting in 2001, I think it was. So, I mean, that guy, that guy knows what he's doing, man. The second he went to Detroit, I told a few of my Lions fan friends, it's like, you guys got yourselves a guy, man, and it's working out. I like to see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's
For sure.
Yeah, definitely a draft guru, and just he just works his magic. I mean, I know that it's more than just one person, right? I mean, you have a whole team of
totally,
people, but he's pulling the strings, so he's going to get the
he's
credit.
awesome. I like him.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yep.
I just want to, I guess, revisit or get your thoughts on initially what the Jared Goff trade was like on your end of it. So, you guys are getting Stafford. You already know what you're trying for. How did you feel about Jared Goff? How did you feel about that trade and that situation? Before, obviously, we knew how it turned out, but, initially.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wanted Jared Goff when the whole thing was going down of, Rams move up, Eagles move up in the 2016 draft. Who are we going to take kind of thing? And I wanted Goff. I watched him. I live in Colorado Springs. So my local team is the Air Force Falcons. And it was Cal and Air Force in the bowl game. That was my first taste of Jared Goff. And it was his deep ball was what caught my eye. And I was like, dang, who is this kid, man? And then I ended up coming to the Rams. I was super excited about it. That rookie season went terribly. He was 0-7 as a starter, but that was under Jeff Fisher. I think you could put an asterisk on that. That's totally fine. And, but I think that Jared Goff, man, we were all a fan of him, man. He's tougher than people think. He's better than people think, man. He's always one of those guys that kind of seemed like the overall judgment of him was a little bit more harsh than people who watch him snap in and snap out kind of thing, then they kind of understand. And I know Lions fans have come around for sure on Jared Goff, chanting it through anything. And anywhere in Detroit, you might hear a Jared Goff chant. So, but when the trade happened, I don't know if you heard, there was very recent comments from Aaron Donald about that trade. Did you guys hear about those comments?
I did read cool. that.
Cool. Yeah. And that's and he's exactly right. So in that moment, it was one of those where coming off of the 2020 season where it was like Goff is just, he's good. He's not going to ruin it for you, but he's not that guy. And that's kind of how we all felt when this trade went through. I immediately was pumped. I was pumped for Goff because it was like Detroit was going through a regime change and it was like, okay, give him a fresh start, man, because he kind of needs that. The Rams needed a veteran quarterback who was just going to put the team on his back and go, man. And we just needed that guy. So initially I was already pumped about it. And even as time goes on and the trade kind of unfolds a little bit more, I still stand by it. I think both teams won the trade. I think it was a perfect trade for both sides. And I don't take any of it back. Even the first round pick don't matter. Just took our first round pick since Goff, who you guys have had for a few years. And I mean, it came with a Super Bowl ring and another appearance. So none of us are sad about it at all. But initially was totally excited about the trade. Even looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, we did. That was just perfect. And they needed to happen. So
I don't know how much, if you've followed Goff recently or anything, what is different about him that you're noticing now than when you saw him as a Rams quarterback?
One major difference is when he was with the Rams in any year, pick any year you want, and you can tell exactly what kind of game he was going to have on the first drive. If he goes, 3 incomplete passes and we're 3 and out, putting the ball away, it was like, all right, we're going to need a run game. Hopefully Todd Gurley's on fire today, kind of thing is how we were all feeling, which luckily for the most part, he was. So that was pretty fun. And then you'd also see it was like first one incompletion. You're like, okay, but it wasn't too bad. Second one, you'd hit like, Josh Reynolds, 26 yards across the middle. And you're like, all right, we're good. We're going to win this game. And that's kind of how we felt. And I would say that now Jared Goff, his first drive doesn't dictate the rest of the game. And I think that chain is a simple one. I think it's the change from Sean McVay to Dan Campbell, because Sean McVay, that first drive happens and the confidence level in McVay and not calling the offense change. Whereas a Dan Campbell, he comes off the sideline after throwing 3 incomplete passes. Dan Campbell, I think, just looks him in the eyes and he's like, hey, man, like, you got it. Put it together. Like, we're good. Like, take a breath. You're good, man. Go out there and play your game, man. So I think that's really the change. I think that Dan Campbell's the perfect coach for Jared Goff, despite the fact that, McVay's this offensive genius. I think personality-wise, Goff needed somebody like Dan Campbell, and I think it shows in his play with stuff exactly like that.
Man, that is exactly my thoughts when you said that. That's how I felt. They just weren't clicking. It just was not. And that's why the trade worked out so well, and Goff struggled with us the very first year. I mean, we had very low amount of talent on the Lions, and, he could have crumbled. But I think when you talked about his toughness, I see that, just he's mentally tough beyond just physically tough. So, yeah, that's interesting insight. So and that's what I see too from my side on this, from the right side.
Most Rams fans still absolutely love Goff. I'll tell you that.
Really?
I think it's awesome, man. Yeah.
That's good.
A lot of fans.
They do.
Right?
All right. We're going to talk about something super interesting to everybody. Kicker talk. You have a rookie kicker. We have a rookie kicker. Our teams really kind of mirror each other a lot. And so, and I even looked at the stats. Your kicker is Joshua Carty. Ours is Jake Bates. Even the stats are very similar as far as missing an extra point, missing 1 field goal in the preseason. So how are you feeling about your kicker? How is the Rams base feeling about the change in kicker?
So the Rams kicker recent history, I mean, Greg Zuerlein, I mean, he was awesome for so many years, and then kind of had a gap in there. We're kind of trying out some guys. Then Matt Gay comes in, and Matt Gay is awesome. And then last year, we get I've nicknamed barely Brett Maher that we had most of last year, because he every single time, he looked barely going in there, man. But so I think that ultimately the way that Carty looked in the preseason, despite the miss, I think it was like a 54-yarder, if I'm not mistaken, and then the extra point, of course. But everything else, man, it just looked so smooth. He looked confident. And I think that's kind of just what we needed at that spot. So I think for myself, I'm feeling pretty good. I think there are some Rams fans that have that in their brain of the string of guys that the Rams have kind of carried, like drafted or took a rookie last year, and Tanner Brown. He didn't make it out of preseason, and then then it's just kind of a revolving door at that spot. So I think a lot of Rams fans are kind of withholding confidence, even though Joshua Carty does look like he could be a really good option. So starting in a dome, and then I guess week 2 is a dome, then we'll be at home in week 3. So I guess we got a good little start to let him build some confidence, but I think I'm feeling pretty good. Can't really speak for the whole fan base right now.
Yeah. It's a wait and see approach, I'm assuming. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Anytime you use a draft pick on a kicker, even if it's late, I mean, you just really want him. You really hope that works out.
With the way the Rams draft late, that could have been our next Hall of Fame wide receiver, man. Would be a kicker.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. So when you think about the Lions, what's the biggest concern that you have as a Rams fan?
I would say for this game specifically, the pass rush. I mean, Aiden's going to come in, man. He's trying to wreck Matthew's day, and he's got that capability for sure. There's some new secondary pieces that are rather interesting. I think that schematically, the Rams will be able to maneuver through that secondary. But I mean, you catch a guy in a spot, and and he reads the ball well. And I mean, these are NFL players; they're very, very talented. So things can happen even without getting that cohesive, play as far as like continuity and playing with each other for a long time. So I would say that pass rush, man, is definitely a concern. And I mean, we just talked about it. These teams are almost mirror images of each other right now, because the Rams also have a young secondary that is not played, or a new secondary that is not really played together yet. So we don't really know how they're gonna gel. So I think that the continuity also that the Lions have in the pass attack is something that could be exploited in this one as well against that Rams secondary. New defensive coordinator, man, new play caller, new everything on there. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's flip it. The Rams, what are you going to take advantage of that Detroit has to offer?
Misdirection on offense. So we're going to see a lot of the jet sweep play actions and all of that stuff. You'll get a few of those. Colby Parkinson will be, blocking on what looks like a jet sweep, and all of a sudden it's play action. Matthew Stafford pulls up and he's darting right up the seam, So we're going to see stuff like that. And that misdirection is going to be critical, I think, for the Lions players to just pay attention, man. Just know where that ball's at and where it's going. It's hard to track when you're going against the Rams, of course, but I think that'll be critical as far as the other side goes, because that's how I think that the Rams will kind of counteract having a little bit of the shifts on the offensive line. Just misdirection, slow them down a little bit. I think on the defensive side will be aggression, and that defensive line just trying to create the chaos up front. Also, as much as Jared Goff has grown, I do know that that getting him off balance and getting him looking down at your guys coming at your face, that does shake him up quite a bit still. So,
any prediction about the game? It doesn't have to be the end score. It could be, stat lines like Stafford's going to throw for 400. Like what do you feel is like, hey, this is going to happen?
I do feel good that Stafford is going to have a big day. What that means, I'm not really sure, because it kind of also depends on what McVay is trying to attack, whether that's going to be on the ground, which the Rams didn't really do in the playoff game, or if it's going to be misdirection and air it out, man. Because I will say, as far as week 1 under McVay, that is typically the course, not pound the rock. We try to spread it out a little bit. Rams kind of use the first 4 or 5 games as preseason. So we'll be trying some stuff out in this for sure. But as far as like a prediction goes too on like how the game will go, I think it's going to be very similar to the playoff game. I think it'll be very tight. I think it'll be down to the wire. I don't think we'll go into the fourth quarter being like either side being like, oh, we lost, or oh, we definitely had this one. I think it'll be going into the fourth quarter tied and be like, okay, let's do this, man. Like we got one more left. So I think it's going to be very close. I think is my main prediction. I think that either side, I'll say it this way, either side's going to keep the last second field goal to end.
All right. Going to go rely on that rookie kicker, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get your Tums ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So
That's what we're here for, though, man. That's the exciting
I
part
know.
of it.
Week 1, right?
Right.
I mean, just
Finally.
does it get much better than this? I mean,
Talk
this
to you,
is
man. Talk to you.
it's optimism. I mean, both our teams, I think, have solid outlooks for the year. We did our preview podcast. I picked the Rams to win the division, the West. So I think that you got a strong team this year. So your optimism's correctly placed, in my opinion.
I like to think so. It's kind of weird, man. It seems like both teams' fan bases like kind of coming in this game, like Rams fans all over the place. I see them all the time, like just being like, oh, nah, man, like the way that playoff game went, we're gonna beat them up. It's gonna be a 21-point game, so like that. It's like, I don't know, that's a good football team, and they basically were in the Super Bowl. I mean, you kind of like, I don't want to bring up bad memories here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you had it, you were there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that some Rams fans are kind of excluding the knowledge that the Detroit Lions were basically a Super Bowl team, and then unfortunately had to watch our biggest rivals in it instead. But I think that that's kind of what our side's looking at. And I think from the Lions side, you guys are like, oh, they lost Aaron Donald. We beat them last year. We'll be okay. And I think that there's a lot of moving pieces to that are not being considered.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of unknowns, and week 1 that's it, right? I mean, it's hard to predict how someone's going to come on, especially when, we haven't seen your starters. You haven't seen our starters. I mean, we saw them in the playoffs, but, things have changed, like you said. And so it'll be interesting. And, each one will they learn something from that game, right? They're going to attack something different, and you have to be ready for that.
I think, the game plans in how each team is choosing to attack, I think is what I'm most excited for. I think the coaching aspect of it is what I'm most excited. How is that Lions defense going to, try to get rid of Kupp and Puka and then Kyron Williams running the ball? Like that stuff is, I mean, that's tough, man. And how is the Sean McVay offense going to try to maneuver its way through that really, really talented Lions defense, especially in the front? So that's the part, man. The players can do it. I mean, obviously, anything can happen there, but I think the structure of how the game plan is deployed, I think is what I'm most interested in.
Yep, I'm with you. I think they're so much mirror images of each other. I mean, you start with a quarterback that we trade for each other, and then just go on like new secondary, the kickers. Our defensive front, some of it's changed, or some of it's been the same, but some of it's also changed, and we don't know if DJ Reader is going to play and all that stuff. So yeah, we can kind of get into that on your side when we go over there. But yeah, it's yeah. Well, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on. I mean, this has been very insightful. Love your energy. I mean, I know your energy towards the Rams, our energy towards the Lions, but it's very similar. The passion's there, and that's what's really important. So, and we'll obviously be rooting against each other this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish you no luck this weekend, okay?
Yeah, exactly. You can catch Joe on Rams Showcase, the podcast. You've been doing that this is your 9th season, correct, Joe?
Yep, 9th season. Every year that the Rams have been back in LA, it's everywhere. Audio version is all over the place. If you're listening to podcasts there, you can find it. Video versions on Facebook and YouTube. It's out there.
I want to thank again Sheriff Joe Baggs for joining us, giving us his insight. He is a fun interviewee, and we showed up on his podcast too. So if you want to hear our perspective on the Lions on his podcast, you can do that. That's the Rams Showcase podcast. All right, Jacob. The injury report came out today.
Let's do it. It's finally here. I'm reading injury reports. Like, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
The wait's over. All right, here's what we have right now. This is as of Wednesday night. For the Rams injury report, they have listed cornerback Darius Williams, limited. Offensive tackle Rob Havenstein, limited. Tight end Tyler Higbee is on the PUP list. Also worth mentioning is that Alaric Jackson is suspended for the first 2 games, so he will not be playing in this one. Starting offensive tackle for them, so that's kind of a bigger loss. And then you flip it over to the Lions injury report, and we have safety Iffy Melifonwu is limited, defensive tackle DJ Reader limited, and then our safety Lauren Strickland actually did not practice. First thoughts about the injury report, Jason. What are you thinking?
Well, to only have 3 people on that injury report is pretty exciting, especially, the DJ Reader one just being limited. That means he's actually practicing. Dan Campbell said today in his interview before practice that they'll know more tomorrow. So sounds like there's still a week 2 goal, but it's possible that he plays this week, which would be really cool. With as long as our injury report was in training camp, to only have 3 on it right now, that is a very good sign.
Absolutely. The chance of having him sooner than expected, because there was a realistic chance that he was going to be on the PUP list at the beginning of training camp. We just weren't sure what we were dealing with. And it's encouraging that Iffy's getting in limited practice as well, because that was kind of the only concern that Dan Campbell really mentioned, is that Iffy may not be ready to go. They're taking it day by day with him. We'll see. Somebody that obviously we really want out there, important part of the defense. But yeah, I mean, to only have just a few names on here, we're fully ready to go this season.
Yeah, we're going to need all those players, because the Rams, they're a tough team. They're a heck of a challenge. So, Jacob, I'm going to kick it over to you. What are your biggest questions for you coming into this game?
So the biggest question I have, the most glaring question I have really is our new secondary going to be able to slow down their passing attack? Obviously, they've had a lot of success throwing the ball to Puka and Cooper Kupp, especially last year against us. Puka, 9 catches, 181 yards. Cooper Kupp didn't really show out too much in the playoff game against us, but overall, I mean, we know Stafford likes to throw the ball, and their offense, they have a legitimate passing attack. We have a new revamped secondary. We've got some rookies. We have Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson. That's my biggest question, is just seeing them right away, week 1, kind of having a challenge like this. Are we going to be able to slow them down, or is it going to look similar to how it looked the last time we played them?
Yeah, that's a good one. That was actually on my list of biggest questions too, is just how is our new secondary going to communicate? How are they going to, be able to cover these 2 outstanding wide receivers? At some point you just know they're going to get their own, but we need to stop the big play, right? That's what I'm hoping, that we don't let anything over top. I guess my next question that I have coming in this game is, can we match Stafford's intensity? I think Stafford is going to come in And, he's going to want this one. He got booed the last time he was here, seemed to take it very personally. He's going to really want this one. So I am curious how that's going to go.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously, he really wanted to beat us last year, but I don't think fully knew exactly what to expect going into the environment. And, we really did not show him any love during that game. And for them to lose that game, I think you're right. He's definitely, the fire is underneath him even more so than before. He really wants to get that one back. Next one that I have is, will Levi Onwuzurike look as good as he did in the preseason? We're talking about DJ Reader. There's a chance he's going to play. Even if he does suit up, he's going to be in a very limited role. It looks like Aleem McNeil and Levi are going to be the ones playing defensive tackle in there, making up for that. Levi had a really good preseason. It's going to be interesting if that translates to the game right away and how much of an impact he's going to make.
I am really curious about how Levi's going to look. Our offensive line is super strong, and Zeitler made the comment that we were going to have two $20 million tackles on our hands. One referring to Aleem, and the second one was referring to Levi. And if any of that comes close to fruition, that would be great for the Lions. And just for Levi, the struggle that he's put up with in, his first few years in the league, not be able to make the field, not being himself. If he can have a good year, I'm just happy for the person because, it's obviously been a long road for him, and he was worried about even making it back on the field. And if he can excel on the field, that's even better.
Absolutely. I have one more question that I want to see is, will Khalif Raymond be a part of the game plan, or how big of a part of the game plan is he going to be? Obviously, we've talked about it all off season about trying to make up those targets for Josh Reynolds. Last year against the Rams, 5 catches, 80 yards. Is Jameson Williams going to take those targets and, is he going to make that impact right away? Are they going to be spreading the ball around? Is Khalif going to be getting more snaps, more targets? It's up in the air right now. We don't know. So it's something I'm really interested to see in the first game is how much he's actually going to be part of the game plan. Also Isaiah Williams, is he going to be out there? Is he going to play? Is he going to suit up? The wide receivers are just a really interesting thing outside of Amon-Ra and J-Mo.
Yeah, and are they going to elevate someone from the practice squad? DPJ, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, depending on who's picked up the offense the quickest. Obviously, DPJ knows the offense better out of all three of them. So that'll be interesting to see if they elevate, because usually they would go with 5 wide receivers in the game. So that means they have the 4 on the 53, and then they would have to elevate someone. So that'll be interesting to see how they do that. I think Khalif is going to be very similar to what we saw the last couple of years. He just might see more targets now and be out there for the same amount of snaps.
Right,
we just might utilize him more than previously. All right. My first key to victory is we got to score early, and so we could just put pressure on Stafford so they can't use that run game or play action. So, I mean, that could be said by a lot of games, but I just like for us, we need to make them one-dimensional, because I feel if we could put pressure on Stafford, he can make a mistake. So I don't want him to be able to utilize play action pass at all.
That kind of goes with one of the points I have is, exploiting the offensive line. So obviously, Alaric Jackson is suspended. He's going to be out. The backup that they have Joe Notebloom is his name. He didn't grade very well last year. If Rob Havenstein's also out, his backup only played 30 snaps so far. They've got Jonah Jackson playing center, which is a position that I guess he's played before, but is relatively new for him. And outside of that, this offensive line as a group has not played together very often. They haven't lined up in these spots. It's going to be an adjustment period for them. And I think we really need to bring the pressure early. And if we can really, just by using the defensive line, if we're able to create enough pressure, then hopefully we can drop some extra people into coverage and try to, like we talked about earlier, kind of slowing down Puka and Cooper Kupp. I think the key to that's definitely going to be trying to get to that offensive line early and often.
Yep, I agree. Another one for me is lock down the red zone. In the previous matchup in the playoffs, that was really the difference in the game. Every time that they got down to the red zone, they had to settle for field goals. We were scoring touchdowns when we got down there for the most part. It's going to be tough, but we did it last year. I think we could do it again.
Agreed. I mean, our run defense was really solid last year, especially against the Rams. We had a really good game. I envision it being probably close to the same as last year, maybe even a little bit better. So it's all about stopping those two receivers, really, for me.
Yep. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know if about stopping them is the right word, but containing them is
slowing them down.
Yeah, and just not letting them free. Seeing them run behind Cam Sutton, for long touchdowns last year was, not the sight I want to see.
Yeah, Puka had a 50-yard touchdown last year, and that was a huge chunk of his yards.
Yep. So we just got to keep them in front. Good safety play. Kirby playing deep. Maybe ball hawks one, something like that. Be great. One of Stafford's, third down punts that he would throw up, just launch one up there when he knew. All right. And then, kind of similar to what I mentioned before, Lions are built to stop the run. I mean, that is like their main goal on defense. So we just need Kyron Williams is a solid back. We're going to we need to keep them in, second and third and long so that we can rush Stafford.
For sure. It just feels like one of those games where, take care of the ball, and it's probably going to be one of those times just like last year where it's going to come down to the last possession. Whoever's got the ball last, are we going to be able to, ice the game, or are we going to have to drive down there and score?
Yeah. Well, I like our ability I feel better about us running the ball than the Rams. The Rams are having offensive line, difficulties already, just moving parts with suspensions and injuries. Looks like we're going to be fully healthy up front. And so I like that advantage that we can run, because Goff with play action pass is pretty devastating, especially when you got Jameson Williams out there on the edge.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think, for us is establishing the run and just keeping Stafford off the field and Puka off the field, let our defense rest up. Especially our secondary. That's the question for us. We mentioned that in our question sections. How is the secondary going to hold up? It's a lot of it's new parts back there. Even our safeties, Brian Branch's different position. So it's, the only one that's still back there is Kirby. Everything else is new back there.
Going to be exciting to see, though.
All right. So we'll see. The game starts 8:20, NBC, Sunday Night Football. It's on. So we're going to do a section that we're going to pick all of the primetime games throughout the season. Jacob and I are just doing this fun thing. We'll keep track, mostly for bragging rights for us. So this week, we're going to pick the Thursday night, the opener, Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens. This week, there's a Friday night game in Brazil, Green Bay and Philadelphia. We are not going to pick the Sunday night game because the Lions are involved. We're obviously think the Lions are going to win all the games, so we're not going to be into picking those. But we will pick the Monday Night Football game with the Jets at San Francisco. We're going to be taking a break from the Honolulu Blitz during this time of the season just because, there's only so much time to do this stuff. So we got this new section. It's called Grit Picks.
Grit Picks.
All right, Jacob. First game, Thursday Night Football, Kansas City versus the Ravens. Who do you got?
All right, so Ravens +3. They're at Kansas City. I actually have the Ravens winning this one.
Actually, we already differ. Kansas City's not going to lose two openers in a row, man. They're going to win this one. Can't lose.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah, all right. So we already
Next up,
it's Green Bay. Friday Night Football. Sounds so weird, right? Friday Night Football.
Friday Night Football in Brazil.
Yeah.
And this is American football.
Yeah. It's a crazy time. All right. Green Bay Packers, our hated rivals, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you got on this one?
Well, the Packers are a slight underdog in this one, too, +2.5. It's a neutral field. Obviously, they're in Brazil. Give me the Eagles.
Yep, I'm with you on this one. I think the Eagles take it. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game, but I think the Eagles take this one. All right, Sunday Night Football, we already said Lions are going to win. We're going to skip over to Monday Night Football, Jets at San Francisco. Who do you got on this one?
This was an easy one for me. I think the 49ers are going to hand it to the Jets.
Ooh, I'm gonna say the Jets win this one, 17-14. Trent Williams,
Monday night, you think the Jets are coming into the 49ers?
I do.
First opening week, Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to upset San Fran.
Will he carry the American flag onto the field? I don't know.
I think he's done carrying the flags.
49ers had such a weird offseason with Trent Williams and Ayuk sitting out, lots of distractions. I think the Jets are going to just go in there and win, but I just have a feeling, and maybe it's because I really want San Francisco to lose, but
right, that's true.
think I can't be rooting for Aaron Rodgers either, so I don't know. Both these teams
can they
can't
tie?
Lose. Yeah, yeah.
No, that's a good point. 49ers probably going to go through some sort of adversity this year, probably early on. I just don't know that the Jets are going to be the ones that do it right away.
Well, the thing is that the Jets have their solid defense. They could give Brock Purdy some problems. We'll see.
For sure.
So that's week one is a tough one because you haven't felt any of these teams out yet, but just San Francisco's just rocky offseason makes me feel very wary of them early on. I think they'll catch on later on in the season as the season goes on, but I think they're
how great would it be if they just collapse? They just tank.
All right. Along with our grit picks, we do a section at the end of our game preview where we call it the grit guarantee. Doesn't have to be like a result of the game. This has to do with the Lions game. So we're going to pick something that we think is going to happen in the game. Give wide range of topics. So we're going to call this the grit guarantee.
It's time for the grit guarantee.
Jacob, I'll let you go first. What is your guarantee about the Lions-Rams game?
All right, so my guarantee of the week for this first one, Kyron Williams, I'm saying we're going to hold him to under 80 rushing yards.
That's a good one. I like that. That would be a good result for us at the end. Mine is Stafford throws 2 picks, and one of them is for a pick 6. I have a feeling that he's going to get rushed, and he's going to throw in his patented pick 6s. So that's...
How cool would it be if it was to Terrion Arnold?
Oh, my God.
Like Branch last year?
Oh, yeah. Well... That's exactly where I was going to go with this. We're going to have another rookie, take one to the house in his first game in the NFL. And how cool would that be? Or Ernest Jones would be fine with me too. Or we could just have a brand new line in his first game. Carlton Davis or Meek take one too. I'll take it. I won't be choosy.
For sure.
But all right. I'm excited about this. I'm going to be up there. I'm expecting playoff atmosphere. Hopefully you can hear it at home when you're watching this game, Jacob. Then we'll do a game recap after, but since the game's so late, probably won't come out till Tuesday morning because we'll probably talk about it Monday evening because I won't get home till really late that night. So I can't wait to be talking about a Lions victory.
The first of many, hopefully.
The first of many this season. Yeah, hopefully we can just keep going. That would be great, right? All right. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.